how many of them would you say have kind of abandoned self-care because they kind of sacrifice everything to this one goal of, making money or becoming successful?
A lot, because I think our value is so much put on, especially on our looks, what we have, our successes, that we get very, very disconnected from ourselves.
The meditation is getting off track and kind of getting kind of embroiled in your own head and your own thoughts, and then catching yourself and removing yourself from it, like that back and forth. That is meditation. That is the flexing and relaxing the muscle of meditation that gets you better.
Isn't it funny that you say that though? Because that is the very thing that stops a lot of people. They're like, I'm
Yes.
not good at this. I'm bad at this.
Welcome to the Biohacking Beauty podcast, to the one of my favorite people that I met in the industry ever. And a just rock star of an entrepreneur. We have both been with each other in happy moments, challenging moments, and someone I feel extremely close to. Janelle, welcome to the Biohacking Beauty podcast.
Thank you, Amate. Happy to be here.
Great.
Such an honor.
So, it's funny because normally we bring people and it's like, okay, we're going to talk about this subject, go, right? Like, this is your story, right? And with you, really, you are just like, I think you are like an avatar of someone in the space. Like you are, you, you are someone that I love seeing take the journey in the biohacking, longevity, whatever you want to call it. That just different, same thing with different titles to it. But you have Desert Moon Wellness. I think this is um, what kind of your journey revolves around, right? Like,
Yeah.
uh, which is a very, very cool place that centers around hyperbarics. And I just actually had a conversation with Dr. Scott Scher,
Oh, amazing.
the great and powerful Dr. Scott Scher. And one of the things I asked him, which I think is very important in hyperbarics. Do you view hyperbarics as a stressor? What do you view it first?
Well, I have seen it stress some people out, because it activates your parasympathetic. And
Mhm,
we're so stuck in the sympathetic mode.
mhm.
Some people take that as a stressor, mm, and it can be, but that's what Dr. Scott say.
No, so Dr. Scott, I think there was way more lead up to the question when I asked Dr. Scott. Was kind of towards the end, and then I realized everything he's saying. I mean, more of a challenge that the body deals with and comes out stronger on the other end. And because I'll explain why. Because I've spoken with anywhere from Dr. Deep Sea, which I'm all the time blinking on his name, but he's like a really cool guy, to Dr. Jason Saunders.
Joseph Dituri.
The touring, that's it. It was
Yes.
actually in Vegas like a couple months ago, right?
Yeah.
I saw him with Misha. So the touring, we had Jason Saunders on. We had Scott Scher twice. We've had other people who have touched on hyperbarics, and most of the time, you have this. I think this, not you. I mean, the person has their kind of talk around how oxygen is healing. But then when you start, talking about should everyone use it? Is it fix all? What could go south, or what are the benefits? You kind of realize that most of them happen outside of the hyperbaric chamber, and they are kind of a response by the body to what happened in the chamber, right?
Yes. So, um, the chamber is a push system. So it is
Yeah.
promoting healing. And the magic happens when you're out of the chamber, and your success, your results is also very much in line with what you do, like your
Hmm.
lifestyle habits, your sleep, your nutrition, your mindset. So, um yeah, as we learn, healing is not linear, so we have to go through those, and We love it. We work with a lot of, obviously professional athletes, biohackers, children, elderly. We also are seeing a lot of healthy people, and I think it's going to keep on coming with autoimmune coming on, and I hate it, but the cancer, different things like that. So it's like, um, the earlier we can support, the better. And
Hmm.
it's we really see magic happen when we're able to take other tools, and some of those tools are free, simple, like standing outside in the ground, watching the sun rays, all the circadian rhythm, tapping into God, the universe. It's what I see when people go through these journeys, and I work with a lot of practitioners that I collaborate with. It all comes back to our mind. That's the most powerful thing.
Yeah.
And hyperbaric oxygen therapy, it's about 80 to 90% of people that it's good for. It is good for most people. There's
Yeah.
very few people that can go in the chamber. And we focus, and so does Dr. Scott, on off-label conditions, Dr. Saunders too. So we're generally treating at, which is still considered low, up to 2.0 atmosphere. It's about 33 feet. It's a very safe destination for most people, but we start gently at 10 feet too. So most people, and then that 10 to 20%, usually it's barotrauma or things that there's a couple contraindication, absolute. But anyone else, it's going to help heal your brain, help heal your body, and also help improve your immune system. So we all need that. The more, and I think too, we have to build these lifestyles of constantly detoxing and supporting our bodies. So supporting our mitochondria, making sure those are functioning right, and then detoxing just so that we're evolving, and we have to evolve. We have no choice,
Yeah.
right? So, but if we could do it with amazing tools, you see our bodies respond so well and so quickly. And that's why I love biohacking. Like, it was my own journey of saving my own life. And through that, becoming a doula and just realizing, like, wow, there's so much I could share with people that they could feel better so much quicker. And it's not just like feeling better because my shoulder hurts. It's getting them to feel better with that mind body connection and tapping into source.
Yeah.
When we see this, and like Young Goose is something that I just added in 2 years ago to
Uh-huh.
my own protocol.
Uh-huh.
And it has been so amazing because I really do feel as though with what you have curated, the products, our skin is spiritual as well. It's not just, it is an
Uh-huh.
organ, but everything comes out. And I just feel like it's something that has been so synergistic with what I do. It's not just a skincare,
Yeah.
it's just so healing to our entire body. Just
Yeah. That was one of the, first of all, I super appreciate that you say that. And I have like a lot to ask you, but first of all, I want to say I really appreciate the fact that you recognize it. It's when we obviously we the journey of Young Goose was like, oh, there's a really cool molecule called NAD. We can have it function, we can have it absorb and like increase youthful function in the skin. Let's go on that journey. But very, 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 very quickly we realized it's there's no silver bullet. Nothing works in isolation. And well, so basically, like we realized it needs other molecules, like it. Oh, you're good. It needs like other things, but also we realized the emotional, uh, spiritual, emotional aspect of our health has to be incorporated. And I think in the beginning, then we kind of maybe straight off of it now because there's so much science to explain. But in the beginning, it was basically, hey, let's build a ritual here. Like let's make it an emotional, ritualistic experience because I would say it is a 30 to 40%, the 30 to 40% of the result. That really is. If someone asks me, hey, why does the skincare work so well? I would say it works so well. First of all, the products are good, but it works so well. First of all, because people listen to this podcast and they believe in the product. They believe it will benefit their skin.
Yeah.
And yeah.
You give me chills because, when I first started attending hyperbaric conferences 10 years ago, I would get people up on stage like, "This is the silver bullet," like, "This is the bullet," and we can praise one thing all day long, but we know and understand that it's several things. There's not one silver bullet.
Yeah.
Um, so
Yeah.
yeah.
And I wonder, do you get people? First of all, how often do you do the chamber? Like how
I
often?
go I
Yeah.
usually go in, I try to get in once or twice a week.
Mhm.
Sometimes I go a month without going in. I really enjoy when I could hop in there and get some work done. We do have 3 hard shells at the center now,
Yeah.
so
Oh
that's
wow, you got the third one too.
yeah. We have
Wow.
a bigger one is for our surgical patients. We work a lot with the plastic surgeons in town, so, they love the Young Goose products. Oh, I have this with me right now because I
Mm-hmm.
have to tell you something. You know, hyperbaric mask and my eye cream is things that go with me everywhere. And I'm
Uh-huh.
using about 7 products right now.
Mm-hmm.
But Tuesday, I did something a little foolish. I let this lady put some of her product on me as she came by the center. She wanted to try. And I don't have sensitive skin. I must say, like I'm pretty good, but it made me like welt. It was crazy. It
Uh-huh.
was Tuesday. So I've been using my green tea
Mm-hmm.
phytoserum and it's just been so amazing and so healing. I also when I met Anastasia, I asked her about like other what's safe, like as far as makeup and foundations, and she's like, I don't really know. I just use the BioShield. And I wasn't at my place in my life where the BioShield was enough, I felt, to cover, make me feel good enough to go. So now
Yeah.
I'm gonna be 46 tomorrow. And
Wow.
I am going to work now, just the BioShield on. And I've totally, because we really focus on toxic load and things like that. So I really am it's helping me just embrace the beauty of the opportunity of, I guess you call it aging, but it's living.
Yeah. Yeah, 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 for sure. That's beautiful. I think everyone has their own journey. I mean, you embrace it, but obviously, like you have the lifestyle to kind of support youthful function as the chronological time passes. I
Yeah.
think a lot of people have a different journey. You are a high performer. Like you came from like you were selling like you know the top 1% of cars, right? That's like how you started. Um, and I can just like imagine the old Janelle that was like basically like revolving around cars all the time. But it's been very difficult to tell her, oh yeah, you got to do all these practices and you got to do this and you got to do that. Some people want quick fixes. I don't actually judge them, but I think um, the best way, to your point, is to try and go on a journey with products where consistency is key
Mhm.
and let the products work over time.
Yeah.
Let them.
It's
Yeah.
funny that you say that because I initially went to school for kinesiology. My 2 passions are bodies and cars. Ended
Hmm.
up in the luxury automotive industry on accident, but if you slice me open, you'll see some Aston Martin in there too. Um, I feel very full circle now because I realized leading up to 2020, working with the very high profile clientele that doesn't matter what you have or how much you have. Sometimes people still need the permission to tap into healing and do things for
Hmm.
themselves.
Yeah.
And so now I have the opportunity. I work for O'Gara Coach Company in Beverly Hills, which has every franchise except for Ferrari,
Hmm.
and almost 2 decades of my life. Very, very amazing. And now I'm working with those clients with helping their bodies be as good as their cars, but better and connect. It's amazing. So those are our body is an amazing engine. It's our vehicle for life. So now that you know, I am able to make the mind shift and tap into the rituals like you're saying. Like it absolutely is my life. Like you learn early on we get into business doing things that we're passionate about because we want to help people. But
Hmm.
business is hard, life is hard, parenting's hard. So, like, it's so important. My dear Melissa Saunders always reminds me of this, like, just how important our self care is and
Yeah.
just being in that flow, you know?
Yeah. How many of those high net worth individuals are like, how many of them would you say have kind of abandoned self-care because they kind of sacrifice everything to this one goal of making money or becoming successful? And how many of them are obsessed about perfecting everything in their life, and like their body is one of those things? I don't know, what is the percentage?
A lot, because I think our value is so much put on, especially, I'll say Beverly Hills,
Yeah.
it's so much put on our looks, what we have, our successes, that we get very, very disconnected from ourselves.
Yeah.
So, one thing I felt so magnetic about why I love being in the community is just being my authentic self. Like, it draws people and it brings that out in them. That's all I want to
Mhm.
do. I want to help people truly be their authentic self while they're on on this planet, so they can just tap in, because I feel like that's like we're here for a journey, right?
Yeah.
And so the answer is a lot, but we're breaking that up, and wellness is happening. We're doing drives to go do sound healings and be outside and in nature and tapping in, and it's really beautiful. I believe in the ripple effect. So whether that's doing my doula work, and because I know postpartum ripples through our communities,
Yeah.
I know, you know what I mean? So whether it's that, or if it's someone of very high profile, and the ripple effect because people are listening to them, so I just try to, like, plant seeds wherever I can and help where I can, and I know that all,
That's nice.
disperses.
That's nice. It's very interesting that's something I'm trying to explain. Because I look in a community, a lot of things you do in a selfless manner, more than like obviously New York, or if someone lived, walked around in the strip in Vegas, because you're gonna do less, uh, or you're gonna be less inclined to like be generous towards someone you don't know or something like that. Even if you are a generous person, that on average. And the reason is, I think in a community, when we have a community around us, we understand that how like the betterment of the community actually betters ourselves. And that's one of the things that I felt in the biohacking community. And people can poo the name biohacking all they want. I actually love the name
I
in
know.
my
It's
myself.
hard, there's been a lot of, like, "We shouldn't say that, shouldn't do that," but I really feel like that's the action that I've taken, and for
Hmm.
me, it's like, it's mindset, it's all these things put together, but biohacking is the action that we do,
Hmm. Yeah.
and it takes I love it so much because it takes us being involved, and
Hmm.
most of the things we do, Amatai, will help enhance the intuition and clear things out. So then people are just like, oh, it's just removing those layers and letting go.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm reading a book, which was recommended to me by someone that people would know is one of the like wealthiest people in the world. And it's called Beyond Entrepreneurship, and it's an older book. It's the same person who wrote like From Good to Great,
Mm,
and I forget, like he wrote a lot of like good books, and in my opinion it's the best book that he wrote. And one of the chapters, he's like talking about how you can use intuition in business decisions, and
mm,
how you can tap into intuition, and how you can strengthen your intuition, and what you should feel or what you shouldn't feel. That's how you work with it. And now I'm like listening, and it's like, oh my god, that's not what I hope. What I Sorry, I didn't hope anything, but that's not what I was expecting to get into in, like, I don't know, episode 3 or 4.
yeah.
Very interesting.
It's amazing. When I first started out working for O'Gara 20 years ago, it was very much about processes. And those processes are ingrained in me to be able to lead a great team and do the work and everything. But then I took a hiatus in motherhood, had my own journey. And when I went back in 2018, is what I'm telling you, I went back to Beverly Hills, my truest, authentic self. And we had became number one in the US before, but we were never number one in the world.
Mm.
And in 2019, I led the team back. I'd been away for a while. And literally the month in, and I'm outside doing a handstand, or every morning I'm clearing my team's energy. And we just flowed. It was the most magical year. Of course, everything closed down in 2020, but 2019 was the most magical year because that is truly what I led with, was my
Okay.
intuition and being present. Like, it wasn't I finally got to a place in my life, and I think that's what being as a doula, I'm there too. It's like, forget everything I've learned. Forget everything I know. Just be present and tap in because we do know it.
Yeah.
We constantly are thinking we have to learn more. We have to, and it's true. We should constantly be learning.
Yeah.
I don't associate well with people that don't want to keep learning.
Yeah.
But there's also a time and a place where we can just tap in because the
Yeah.
knowledge is there.
Yes, I agree with you. Now, I have a question for you. As you said, you deal a lot with like high performers, whether it is around cars and high performing cars, but high performing individuals, but also you deal with high performers in your practice. Like that is, these are, part of the people who come. And obviously, you don't, I should mention, you don't only offer hyperbarics. Like Desert Moon is a legit, I would say, like top of the line biohacking facility. Not only because you have a red light therapy bed and compression boots and Young Goose, never mind this awesome brand. I'll talk about it later. But like and brain tap or whatever. It's also because you I think a big principle in biohacking is that Tim Ferrissy type principle of like trying to tweak and improve all the time.
Yeah.
And this is something I really love, and that's a selfish reason to keep in contact with you because you always are, you know, pushing the envelope, doing something new, stuff like that. So I would mention that you do a lot to improve the facility and improve your the experience that you're gonna provide around biohacking, and that leads you to dealing with a lot of like high performers, right? I have a question for you. Being someone that has like really, really, really good skin and has gone through a journey like the inception of this conversation of bringing you on was around like how can you can I have your best skin without Botox, right? So like what are some of the correlations you see between like people who are high performers with their body as a whole and people that get like or yourself that get like optimal results in their skin?
So high performers as far as with like athletes,
Yeah,
right?
athletes, yeah.
Or because the other high performers you were talking about is completely different. We're like so
Yeah.
it's really neat because we do neural check and
Uh-huh.
I always see, the very high performing athletes, they look like Buddha on it. They're just
Wow.
like, and I get the high performers CEOs and it's just they're in the red. Or just
Yeah.
so, if we could take the high performing we do on the outward and on the inward and bring that together,
Yeah.
that's really the best. I don't know if I exactly answered your question
No,
though.
no, no. So that's a good answer, but I will ask a similar question. But you know, for example, I'll give you an example. So we just did a training for my friend's facilities. He's a plastic surgeon. He was actually on the podcast. His name is Cameron Chestnut. By the way, he also does jujitsu. Like he's a crazy plastic surgeon. He's, in my opinion, the best in America. And the guy, half of what he posts is jujitsu, which is hilarious. It's just like wrinkles in jujitsu, kind of
I
like
do
me.
love that.
Yeah. And but so I personally got on a Zoom and spoke to his team. They have like 4 clinics. They started carrying Young Goose, and no nepotism here. I mean, we've known each other for a while, and they only kind of kind of started carrying us now. And I was explaining to them how the the people who go and they do many things. They do obviously a lot of plastics, but they also do a lot of like skin rejuvenation in other ways. And the reason we are friends, we actually met through Greenfield, is because the guy's a biohacker. And the reason he's an amazing surgeon is because he does a lot of things around it, including hyperbarics, including, which you mentioned that you work with plastic surgeons, but including, the diet, everything that you and I think of as far as like biohacking that would improve someone's health, right? And I was explaining to them that really you want to think of people who are interested in improving their skin somewhat of like a skin rejuvenation athlete. The better you treat your body, the better LeBron James treats his body. Or we met some UFC fighters when we were at your facility, obviously. The better they treat their body, the better they eat, better they take care of their brain, habits, mindset, etc., the better they are going to perform. That is their Olympics,
It's
no
so
pun intended. And for someone who's interested in their best skin, that is their Olympics, right? Like their Olympics is that's what they get ready for every day, better skin. So I'm wondering, from your point, your journey, the fact that you want to, look your best without Botox, and a journey of an athlete that you see. I wonder what are the correlations you see there?
yeah. So, I think I had a misconception of skin care as we
Mhm.
aged. Um, Being in Beverly Hills in the early 2000s, I started getting Botox early on, and then um 35, about 8 years ago, 9 years ago, that's when I went through my whole healing journey. And that's when I was like, okay, that's when I stopped, just removed everything, stopped doing my hair, stopped doing nails, just because I wanted to reduce the toxic load. And I took a big break, and then I'm not against Botox, and I'm going back to your question about the
No,
athletes here.
I love it. Go ahead.
I'm not against Botox or fillers or anything. What I am for is balancing the body. And for me right now, I did try doing it again about 2 years ago, but I just found my mindset started shifting a little, and I wasn't really paying attention to as much as the integrity of my skin from the inside out, because it's
Yeah.
these quick fixes and you feel good.
Mhm.
But I just have to think back, like, I didn't used to take care of I thought I was taking care of my skin really well, but I wasn't. And so sometimes it's just like when you choose not to have gluten or alcohol or sugar, you're gonna make better choices. So I'm all about, like, I guess it's called habit stacking, like the
Yeah.
positive habits and stuff. And um so I have, for myself, like, I have experienced that transformation. And with
Uh-huh.
athletes, especially ones that take really good care of themselves, like Misha, you brought up, she's been biohacking her whole life, like, for so long, and she was like, "What's that mean?" Like,
Yeah.
she's such an incredible athlete, but not just that, she takes care of herself and she does all the little things. So and I think it was LeBron that was speaking recently about, his diet and things like that. And it all stacks up.
Yeah.
And so we we will focus less, I guess, on the parents. I think a lot of athletes do get less, like Botox and fillers,
Oh, yeah.
what I've seen, because we're not focused on that so much, and the integrity, you're taking care of your liver, you're taking care of your body. It all shows. So
Yeah. It's funny. You mentioned Misha. The only thing that she doesn't do is ice baths, but she maybe
I
started
think
now.
she
But
started, but she
oh,
used
yeah,
to
yeah,
be.
yeah. She used to she used to be afraid of ice baths. Uh, but Misha Tate, so we were sure that she's a UFC fighter. Anyway, shout out to Misha. Um, so it's very interesting that you're saying that, because I didn't actually think about it when I asked you the question, but it is, habit stacking does apply to both. I think something that people don't realize is that is the rule of decision fatigue. That the more decisions you make every day, you make poorer decisions. First of all, you get tired of it,
Mhm.
but you also make poorer decisions as time goes on. I mean, I can give like a bunch of examples, but um, you know, you get more lenient uh, judges in the morning. You get, I mean, it goes on and on. But basically, we have about 25 decisions we can make per day, make well, and everything that you would deem as a decision is there. You know, what should I wear? Uh, where do I pick up my phone now, or wait a few more minutes to let my eyes like get exposed to the correct wavelengths of sunlight, as you mentioned, and every decision really,
I think it's that right there.
yeah,
Like, you see, we have to take the Steve Jobs approach, I guess, to biohacking a little. Like, it's so much information. People get fatigue right on supplements, you know?
yeah,
But I've also have learned too, with supplements, we got to back it up, you know?
yeah,
And that's why, like, running tests, like our DNA and in different tests, we could see what exactly our body uses. Like, I know that the sun is good for me, but my body isn't able to absorb vitamin D from it.
mhm,
So, and like different things. And so that stuff all help for me. Okay, so the Steve Jobs approach. For me, everything has to become a habit if it's going to be
yes,
consistent. And I'm not looking for a quick change. We didn't get here quickly. We didn't, like I said, I'm gonna be 46 tomorrow. I have a lot of people I'm helping in their 30s to 50s. We didn't just get not feeling good overnight or aged,
yeah,
So we have to be patient, but it's really important to get on the bandwagon of taking care of yourself before we have the alarms go off. Our medical system is very reactive, and so that's why
uh-huh,
it's up to us to be very proactive and just empowered in that, but in a way that we could support each other, like you're saying, our community, I think is just help filter out a lot of information. There's just and, this whole
yeah,
biohacking and wellness, it's huge booming, so people see dollar signs, so we see stuff coming from
yes,
everywhere. It's like,
yes,
"Ah!" So,
yes,
I think the simpler that we could just make it, and saying that too, like you were saying, not everything's for everyone.
yeah,
So that's why it's like, you empower people, you get them to open up, tap in, and it's really incredible the decisions people can make and the choices when they have a little clarity.
yes, yeah. And when they tune up their decisions slowly, their habits slowly. Sorry,
Yeah.
not the decisions, but their habits slowly. They intentionally stack habit on habit. But I will you touched on two things that are completely separate, but I want to get into. The first thing is kind of what we're talking about now with habits and stacking, which is called the aggregation of marginal gains. And this is a term that was coined by a guy that I always blank on his name, but he was a cyclist and he got the the helm of the British cycling team. I don't remember if they started to get good at 2015 or he got them at 2015, but basically he tried to improve that um, everything that is associated with the performance of the athletes, or just it with the performance of the team as a whole, by 1%. And I'm talking about very esoteric things like bringing like better pillows for the athletes to sleep on at night, painting the inside of the big, semi trailer, you know, where they were fixing the bikes. He painted it white so they can do it faster because they can see all the little parts. He obviously like had them, do mindfulness practices and do go through the race in their head. Like he improved many little things. And just for reference, before he came, basically the British cycling team was like saying some football team from like the Canadian Football League is gonna go to win like 3 consecutive Super Bowls. You know what I'm saying? And they have become like the number one cycling team in the world, which is really really cool. So that is the speaks to the power of aggregation of marginal gains.
It's amazing, and I think that's why we fall in love with biohacking is
Yeah,
because and you're able to start making those adjustments in your child's life now too. It's like
yeah,
those little adjustments, even this hotel room that we're in right now, the Westin, it's so nice.
Uh-huh.
That bed is so we can sleep better. They have a
Uh-huh.
whole, like, article in here about, like, how it's set up so we can sleep better, and I love that. And, like, we're we're looking out, and we can look out for each other too, where it doesn't cause that fatigue, it doesn't cause those little tweaks just make such a huge difference.
Uh-huh.
Our body is just so responsive, and a
Yeah.
lot of times too, I've trained with Dr. Dan Pompa, like,
Yeah.
and fix a cell to get well is always
Yeah.
our belief, but
Shout
a
out to
lot
Dan Papa.
he's amazing, and so, like,
Yeah.
he's taught, and Mindy, all of them, like, they've taught us so much, so it's like, what I remember back in 2016, the first 6 months of my healing journey, and I'd gotten pretty sick for me to get here and make these life changes, is it was more about removing. It was
Yeah.
removing the things that had gotten me there in the first
Yeah.
place,
Yeah.
and then we built up the health from there,
Yes.
and a lot of these things, like, there's no going back because you feel better, not because someone's making you, but because you feel better and life
Yeah.
is better.
I think when you say there is no going back, though, although it is true, we do need to understand that if we don't maintain our habits and stuff like that, we will, physically like go back, like emotionally, physically go back. Like we need it is work. It's like the work that we all the time kind of go through.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
so true. It's so
yeah,
true, and I say that, but I myself, I've fallen off and fallen back too, and last year was a pretty tough year, and but what I do is I just go back to ground zero, and I'm like, okay, so what's this rebuilding going to look like now?
yeah,
How can I just
that's so impressive. You are so impressive. It's
thank
crazy. Within that, I love the Waking Up app by Sam Harris, the meditation app. And I think the biggest lesson that he repeats there, which he has a lot of lessons, but the one that I connected with the most was the idea that, you're not succeeding in meditation if you can get to a place where you're not involved with your thoughts or whatever. That is not success in meditation. The meditation is getting off track and kind of getting kind of embroiled in your own head and your own thoughts, and then catching yourself and removing yourself from it, like that back and forth. That is meditation. That is the flexing and relaxing the muscle of meditation that gets you better and forward, etc.
Isn't it funny that you say that though? Because that is the very thing that stops a lot of people. They're like, I'm
Yes,
not good at this. I'm bad at this. And I'm like,
yes.
that's part of the
You
practice.
are, by the way, you are doing this. Like they're bad, good. That's what I mean. You're actually very good at this. If you get back into your thoughts and then catch yourself, you're actually really good at this.
That's why a brain tap works so well, because within 7 minutes, with
Yeah.
7 minutes, we're there. And it's just like, but we need to know how to do this as humans
Hmm.
ourselves. We're going back to when I'm at my best and in the flow, I know I'm just I focus on my breath. I have a mantra. It's Sat Nam. It means truth is my identity, and that came to me in my journey. And so it's something. It just helps. We have to constantly get out of our own way, you know.
Yeah. I
And
would
it's
just say that Satnam is a significantly cooler word than the entire sentence you need to say in English, though.
yeah,
We should also have a word like that. Anyway, so that's one thing I wanted to kind of talk about. But something else that you said that I think is actually applies also to aesthetics, like the world of aesthetics, but also to biohacking, where most companies in biohacking, more than in aesthetics. Aesthetics, it's really big companies that have relationship with doctors, and what happens is that the doctor buys a device for $200,000, and they have a certain amount of people that are going to do everything that that doctor says in the practice, and at some point they run out of those people because the idea is like 3 treatments in a month, or and then you don't do it for 6 months, whatever the technology is. Most of them are not as advertised, let's say. And then um the doctor normally either they've paid off the device or they haven't. 80% of aesthetic devices actually have not been paid off. by the time the doctor buys a new device, which I think it's something, there's something to say about. But then they need to then take the same amount of people, tell them, hey, there's a new device, it does this and that better, now do this. And the old device, they sell it for a fraction of the price or something, and they're in this loop. And most practitioners, like most providers that deal with aesthetics, don't even realize that. The second thing, and in biohacking, I'm starting to see the same thing happen as far as most companies are smaller, but they have a device that technically, if made well, should last for many years. So these companies have to sell it for really high because they're like, hey, we're only going to see this client for one time, maybe two in their life. And the biohacking industry is not very big. And the cost of treatments for most things are like so high, like the cost of the actual device that does the treatment, like compression suits until probably like 2-3 years ago were like $37,000. Now they're like 9, right?
Wow. Yeah. They're being
Oh,
resourced.
what?
They're being resourced, it's like,
Yeah,
and we see that even Desert Moon Wellness, we see that, but that's why this is I'm so committed to this on so many levels.
yeah.
I don't know if this is where you're going with
No,
this,
no,
but
no.
like
Yeah, you're right.
with the equipment and stuff, like I look at it differently to where some people from a straight business association might be like, this isn't, that's right. But I see the longevity in it. And I know that we're just getting started.
Yeah,
The biohacking word is blowing up, but I will never onboard a lot of stuff or too much. And we wanted to do contrast. I believe in sauna therapy and cold therapy.
yeah.
So I do. It's helped me a lot.
Mhm.
But we work with a place in town that does it perfectly. Um, and for me, it's like I always just want to deliver quality and I really want to help people. I
Yeah,
really want to show them like how things can work. And so with hyperbarics too, we've often it's a protocol that front loads your system. As
yeah.
I was saying, the healing happens when you get out of the chamber. And that's arguably about 4 to 8 hour process of the oxygen coming back out through your tissues. So when you do that on a daily basis, front loading your system, that's how you're able to really upregulate the healing. And it's like we get to this new divine setting where we can finally like look down, and be like, whew, okay. And yes, we do see some people, and the healthier you are, because it all depends physiologically how you are when you start your sessions, how you're going to respond. And
Yeah,
everyone's different. So I can't tell you that 20 sessions is going to do all these magical things for you. I mean, I know it's going to help stimulate your own stem cell production. I know you're gonna go through this healing process, but every single person is just so different. Um, However, I find even if someone like does like a 10 or 20 and then they're off, like we set them
yeah.
off, yeah, you finish your session. It's so much more than just that. And it
Hmm.
doesn't matter if what that is with, as long as it's something that really works. With biohacking, it really is a process of taking modern modalities with the ancient wisdom and
Hmm.
combining them and like really understanding. But you've given that person a gift for life and they
Yeah.
will be back and they will tell their friends, and that's one thing we learned, even running Aston Martin Beverly Hills, most of my business, it's referrals. It's 90% of my
Hmm.
business is referrals. And
Yeah.
so you learn that really early on. If you help a person, you make a difference. You don't.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that. Like, we are not, but we are very connected with the group of they're called like Lions or something like that. We get invited to most of their events. It's like the Tony Robb people pay like $120,000 a year to be around Tony Robbins. And they have a few of them, but like the main group, like our friends are like that, and they invite us to like some Halloween party or something like that. Obviously, now we're not going because of the 9-year-old that we have, 9 month old that we have. But maybe when he's 9 years old. Um, but you realize like how many people that rely on human connection for their business are there because it's a good business investment. Like just like getting referrals from those groups.
Yeah.
So a lot of realtors, right?
Mhm.
And other kind of service providers. It's very interesting. How I always say probably these guys, if they do make the leap, like maybe you could tell me yourself, like make the leap and like invest in being in a group like that or something. Obviously, you need to afford that first. Maybe it's really good for your. Maybe it's a really good life because at the end of the day, what you're doing is you're just cultivating like friends.
Yeah.
I don't know,
So
is it?
powerful. My mom crewed with Tony when I was in my 20s, so
Mhm.
I walked across fire. I
Ah,
went to quite a few seminars. It's where I actually met Chuck Liddell was at my first Tony Robbins seminars where I met my
okay,
first, and, my mom was a realtor. There's people of all aspects of life. And now 20 years later in Las Vegas, I work with, a colleague of Tony's who lives there. Her name's Lauren Lahav. She's amazing, and she's now doing this in Vegas, and, I am joining quite a few groups too because it's so important,
yeah.
and, the work Tony does is amazing, but we can continue doing that in smaller communities too.
Yes, I 100% agree. It's more about actually, I like more the idea of the community. Even though obviously Tony is incredible, very smart guy. Some of the things that I actually quoted him like last podcast too, but like a lot of things that he has kind of broken down. Um, whether it is like how you achieve like fulfillment or some business stuff that he's done is incredible, but I think the community aspect is the most important aspect. uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I
And
I recently oh, sorry.
yeah, no, go ahead.
Okay, so, Tony's incredible. Read a lot of his book, like, but just recently finished Life Force.
Uh-huh.
I was so amazed because this is where, like, that is a book, each chapter goes into detail. It's really good. Um, was first introduced to it because he has a whole chapter about pulse PMF, and, we have a
Mm,
pulse PMF, but then he
yeah.
goes into, like, osteostrong, just every little thing. I think it's a really good guidebook for
Uh-huh.
anyone looking to feel better and have a great health span. I also think that is a great book for CEOs, and, these high performers on the outside.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting that again that he sees value in the community. Obviously, sees value in the biohacking community. Actually, that's an anecdote I wanted to say before, where I got to, and that's something I feel like it's a good community to be around. So I got invited to speak together with Deepak Chopra. That's why I went. Um, Speak together with Deepak Chopra, two very, very, very high level investors. By the way, it was in the, I don't know if you know the game Paddle. It's like pickleball, but apparently you need if you have more money or more interested in paddle. Uh, and there is a chain of like paddle places that are called paddle reserve. So it was around that guy's um, group, and I'm speaking to people who are worth a godly amount of money, and they're interested in biohacking. They're interested in the potential or the opportunity, the investment opportunity around biohacking. And my favorite conversation to have with them is like to be very serious faced and tell them, yeah, but if you are an investor in biohacking, if you want people to listen what you're doing and trust what you're doing with their money, because there was a lot of hedge fund people there, like you gotta do that yourself. You gotta have a six pack, and you gotta go to cold plunge, and then do contrast therapy. And I went through the list, whether it's PMF, hyperbarics, you know, intermittent fasting, whatever that is. Lift weights. I was like, you gotta be that guy, or else you're not gonna be viewed as in the community. You're not gonna be viewed as someone who knows what's up. You know so that was a great conversation with because I was like, the same conversations we had with Young Goose, but on the opposite side. Hey, we can have good products and stuff, but you got to do the other work if you want to reap the real benefits of using our products.
That is so true. And it's funny you say that because I had a conversation with someone recently about this, and I 100% believe it. I 100% we have to do the work. Um, but the six pack might not always be there, and that's
No, I
okay.
don't care about the six pack. I don't have a
That's
six pack,
okay.
by the way.
It's because again, it's like it's not linear, but as long as they teach you in yoga, it's not how many times you fall out, it's how quickly you get back in.
Same thing about the Sam Harris. I love this. I love this. This is really, I mean, this is life. This is happiness in life.
Yeah.
Happiness is life is to understand you unless I'm not talking about people who have like an addiction problem. So I don't want to enable anyone. It's like you gotta fall off and gather yourself and happily get back on the horse. This is really to me the meaning of life.
Can we talk about addiction for a moment though?
Yeah.
Because the more I learn, the more I think it's not so much addiction. It's we need to focus more on connection over addiction. And I'm not saying that these addictions I know they grasp a hold on people's like on a level that it's so hard. You can't get out from under. But if we focus more on connection and what I've learned working with Dr. Amen over the years, I've been so lucky too, is like, our neurotransmitters, how our brain's firing. And sometimes there's just little things you could do like GABA and the theanine,
Yeah.
depending on what's going on with you, that for me, myself, that's what's helped me feel more balanced over the years. And I just think it's so important. And that's why biohacking is so important. If you are feeding addictions and you're biohacking, they call it you're bioslacking. And that's just, if you might feel good, for a while, you might feel really good for a while, but it's gonna, so, and that's why it's the mind, body, all of that. And I help a lot of people with addiction now, and I'm very grateful to be able to do that. And so we
Yeah.
focus on connection.
Yeah, I think addiction and cancer are two things that are at the kind of outskirts of biohacking. I think it's very scary to try to help those through biohacking. And obviously, there are also restrictions around it, like medical restrictions around it. Like you can't tell people, hey, this and that is going to help you. Yeah,
We have to be really careful. We have to watch for liability, and there's controversy. Hyperbaric oxygen therapy creates angiogenesis.
yeah,
Then people are like, well, is that going to create my
yeah,
cancer cells to multiply more? And it is really hard to get people to even express protocols exactly. I mean, I was talking to a doctor, I won't say his name. He was like, 2.5 for a tumor because it's going to get inside and break the tumor up, but again, it is a scary space,
yeah.
absolutely, because you never want to hurt a person. You only want to
Hmm.
help them. But those things go so hand in hand. We have to, a lot of times it's those addictions that lead us to cancer and stuff,
Yeah,
and dealing with the trauma and not dealing with, you know, the thing.
exactly. Yeah,
So it's important. Like we need to be biohacking for in that space.
yeah. Well, listen, Janelle, we are hitting the mark here, but I do want to thank you because to me, I talk about it often within the confines of Youngus as a company. We need boots on the ground. We need people that we trust and that are experienced. As I said repeatedly in the podcast, that are trying to advance their knowledge, the field, and everything together. And you are definitely one of those people for us.
Thank you.
So if anyone is in Las Vegas and you had too much to drink the night before, or you didn't, both people, because if you didn't, you care about health. And if you had too much to drink, you definitely care about health. Now, I would really highly, highly, highly recommend searching out Desert Moon Wellness. We will be there in December for A4M and to hang out with you. Janelle, where can people find you if they want to work with you as far as like online, things like that?
Yeah, our Instagrams doesn't mean wellness LV. My personal one is Janelle Ardizzone _. Um, and my email is Janelle at desertmoonwellness.com. So reach out. I'd love to
Amazing.
connect.
We love you personally. I love you. We love you, Tiangus. Janelle, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Amate. Lots of love to the family.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Bye, everyone.